what was the hardest transition for you when you went to mixed martial arts?
Honestly, like kicks. At first, when I'm throwing kicks and stuff, I could throw like 3 or 4 kicks and I'm gassed out. I would say the 2 smartest guys that I've seen fight are probably you and JON. And I think a lot of people, they talk about, oh, this guy's so strong, this or that, but they don't talk about intelligence. And you don't hear a quarterback, man, I'm so good, I could throw the ball 85 yards. Like, they don't say.
Big fight for you coming up. You're taking on Paul Craig. How you feeling about this fight?
I'm not training for this fight specifically. I'm really just training for my 5th, 6th, 7th title defense.
Hey, look at him. Little thinking about 7 and 6. That shit's unheard of nowadays, baby.
Oh, it's 15-time world champion Demetrious Johnson. You're listening to the MightyCast.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the MightyCast. And this gentleman who is joining us today is an absolute monster. Not just in wrestling, but also in mixed martial arts. Please help me welcome Bo Nickal. What's going on, Bo Nickal? How are you doing today?
Doing well. I appreciate that intro. You know, just trying to be more like you, man.
No. I did. Typically, I don't like to do much research on my guests because I want to hear the story from their mouth, right? But I was like, I've seen all your fights, undefeated, 100% finishing rate, but your wrestling pedigree from 5 years old until now, like, dude, what the fuck? It's such because, I want you to talk me through it, but like, doing a little research on you, you're wrestling, you've been doing this since 5 years old. You've been absolutely amazing. I mean, I think at one point you only had 7 losses. You accumulated so many wins, and you only had 7 losses. And the biggest thing that came to my mind when I read that is that, wow, you never got burnt out, right? You never got burnt out, where you see a lot of kids, not just in wrestling, but jiu-jitsu, soccer, basketball, football, whatever it may be. When they do it from 5 years old all the way to their adulthood, they just stop. They don't want to do it anymore. Like, even my buddies I used to wrestle with in high school, they started when they're 5 or 6 years old. About time they got to high school, they're like, I'm sick of this shit, Dad. Like, I want to go do other stuff. I'm tired of cutting weight. I'm tired of wrestling. And that didn't happen to you. So walk me to the very beginning once you got introduced to wrestling, because you started at a very young age. Take it from there, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, wrestling, it was just always part of my life. My grandpa wrestled in college. He was wrestling coach. My dad wrestled his whole life. He ended up playing football in college, but he coached wrestling. And so for me, it was just something that it was almost just like in my DNA. And really from the very beginning, I loved it. I think that the state wrestling tournament is generally, beginning part of the year. So it was like February. I was born in January. So I think I was a month old at my first state wrestling tournament. And started like actually training and competing and stuff at 5, about the same time I could walk. No, I'm just kidding. But pretty much, and so, I think that, there's probably a lot of reasons why I didn't burn out, why other people do. I think that some of it has to do with me. Some of it has to do with just, being blessed to be around amazing people. Even though my dad, as I mentioned, was a coach and he was my coach, he was never like, made it about him. I would say he always, was kind of, he would listen to me. We had a very open dialogue and communication. And I think I was just a unique case where I knew what I wanted, at a very young age. I remember being 7, 8 years old. I'd only wrestled a couple years and basically making the decision, like, I'm going to be a state champion in high school. I'm going to be a national champion in college. And it wasn't like, it wasn't just like, oh, I just thought about that stuff. It was like I kind of actually aligned my life in that way at like I was saying, very young. And so I think that, part of that was just it being my choice and, wanting to do it, loving the sport. I did a bunch of sports growing up. I played football, I did baseball, ran track. And I think that helped as well, not doing one sport year round. But once I got to be about, I think it was like maybe 16, that's when I committed to wrestling full time. So a little later, I guess, than some people. Some people you see, at 7, 8 years old, just specializing. And, that's something that I think for me, it was important to do a lot of different sports, just get different types of training and different types of environments. Obviously being an individual sport, you're so isolated doing your thing, and you have to be selfish. Like, you have to think of yourself to compete at a high level. But I think I benefited a lot from, playing football and baseball, being in a team environment, just getting that socialization, kind of seeing a different point of view. And I think it definitely changes my perspective on training and development, than what it would have been if it would have just been only me the whole time. And so there's tons and tons of reasons, but I think if I had to just really sum it up to one, it was just I just loved what I did. I always did from a very young age. Even though, as I said, I played other sports, wrestling was always what I took most seriously and what I enjoyed the most. And here we are now, transitioned into a new sport, but it's the same concepts and the same principles that I'm applying to MMA that helped me get successful in wrestling. And I think it's helped me find a lot of success really quickly.
Yeah, I would say, because, like I said, from my experience training all around the world and doing wrestling, I don't want to say my whole life, but started at middle school, I would always see people who started when you have just burn out. And you said you weren't forced to wrestle. You just got introduced to it. Like, obviously your dad and your grandpa were always around it, but they're like, Bo, you need to wrestle. Like, it's going to happen. Or were you just like, oh, you guys are wrestling, I'm going to try wrestling. And then they're like, oh, he's doing wrestling. Like, was it because, like, my son, he does jiu-jitsu. And he's been doing it for 2 years now. I don't force him. I pick him from school. And he's like, Dad, I don't want to train today. I'm like, okay, let's go home. Like, I'm trying not to burn him out, because jiu-jitsu, any sport well, I feel like jiu-jitsu is more of a journey, right? Football, basketball, those aren't journeys, because at one point in time, you're not going to play. You only can get so good, I guess you can say, right? Like in jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, it's a lifelong journey. But for you didn't get burnt out. So how was it like you got introduced to it? Like, what was like, was your dad like, Bo, you go fucking wrestle? It's in the lineage, it's in the blood, you're going to wrestle.
Actually it was kind of the opposite. I was just around it. He was a high school coach, so I would see, his high school practices, and of course, just being around it, I was like, I want to be like these guys. But I actually got forced to do other sports. It was like, I loved wrestling so much, and that was like all I wanted to do. And he was like, no, like, you're going to run track. And I was like, Dad, I don't want to run track. That sounds terrible. Like, he's making me run the 400 and the 800. And I was like, this sucks. But he kind of actually made me, take breaks periodically from wrestling. And I think that helped a lot. Like I said, up until I was, 16 years old, there was a lot of other sports and a lot of other things that I was doing. It was one of those things like that I just, I liked just being out, being active, doing sports. It was always very interesting to me. But wrestling was like a passion from the very beginning. I don't know, really. I think that it was just something in me, like, that made me love it. And it definitely helped that my dad didn't force me to do it. It was always a conversation of, hey, do you want to go to this tournament? Do you want to go to that tournament? Hey, we're going to take August, September, October, and we're playing football. Like, maybe we hit a couple wrestling practices a week, like, if I really want to, but like, we're focused on a different sport for a few months out of the year. In the summer, we're going to have you, run track, we're going to have you play baseball, these types of things. So it was never too much. And I think that helped me, actually, because some people get so good. I was thinking about this yesterday, because I don't know if you know the Super 32, but it's one of the toughest high school wrestling tournaments in the country. It was the finals were yesterday. And so I was thinking about some of these kids that start and they are like freaking world beaters at 8-9 years old. And I think that's where they can get so good, it almost becomes boring. And then they don't progress as much through high school and through college. Where for me, I was like, I've been doing, 75% of the year wrestling, 25% of the year not. So I got a lot of room to grow. And I'm getting into that point where I was, like I said, 16, 17, 18 years old. I'm like, I'm going to start catching these guys that were maybe a little bit better than me at that point. There wasn't very many guys that were better than me, but there was a few. And so I had a good balance of success and losses. And for me, it was like, I think it's different for everybody, but it was like 95% wins, maybe 5% losses. And it was like that all the way up until maybe the middle, maybe like my sophomore, junior year of high school, when I really started dominating every single person in the country. But I felt like that I was always motivated. And because I didn't do it full time, I felt like I still had a ton of room to improve when I did start focusing on it at a little bit of a later age.
And when you said 16 is kind of where you started specializing in it, did you still do other sports? Because I'm sure, or did you start doing other sports, or did you just say, okay, we're doing, the collegiate wrestling during high school season, and then after wrestling, we're going to go do freestyle, and then after this, we're going to go do Greco, or was it like, hey, we're still going to focus on wrestling in high school, spring is track, and then fall it's football, or was it like, hey, no more other sports, just wrestling at 16, when you started specializing it? Because you see a lot of parents, that's all the kids are going to do. You're going to be the next, Marshawn Lynch. You're going to be the next XYZ. This is all you're going to do. You're going to live, eat, breathe this stuff. So when you hit 16, was it just pure wrestling, or did you continue to do other sports as well?
No, it was pure wrestling. So I remember I had a conversation with my dad. It was maybe like the end of the year, my sophomore year. And so we were heading into the summer. And I was like, Dad, I'm not going to, I want to focus on wrestling. I'm not going to do football this fall, because I went to high school in Texas. And so football was like, you had
Big deal.
You had a 16-week season in the fall. You would go straight to powerlifting off season. Then you do 7-on-7, or actually before 7-on-7, you do spring football. So there was a whole 8-week spring football season that you'd play. And then you'd play 7-on-7 in the summer. And so I was like, I kind of had to make a decision post wrestling season if I was going to start doing spring ball, or if I was going to go to just focus on wrestling. And I was like, I think it's time. I love football. It was always really fun for me, but it was more of just a game. It was like, oh, this is fun. It's a game. I'm with my teammates. This is cool. But I knew for me, it was like, that was when I made the decision. This is what I'm pursuing in a serious capacity. I'm really wanting to dive all in and go for this, and I think I can be the best in the world at this. So that at that point it was all wrestling, and I immediately saw big jumps. It was like immediately I would always train wrestling, right? So even when I would do football season or something like that, like I said, I was hitting a couple practices a week, pretty much throughout the whole year, and then obviously during the season I was every single day, a couple times a day. But then when I really focused all my energy on wrestling, it was like, boom, I was making big gains. And yeah, I really noticed, because some of my other teammates were, high level wrestlers in high school. They were, national champions, number one guys in the country that also played football. And then I was like, they continued to play. And then I stuck with just wrestling. And then all of a sudden I was like whooping them. And I was like, wow, that was, it's very clear that there's a real cause effect relationship between this. So it kind of was a positive feedback for me.
What's going on, guys? This podcast is sponsored by VIIA Hemp. Now, VIIA Hemp is a premium hemp company that has products amongst multiple spectrums. They got stuff with CBD. They got stuff that's going to get you elevated, and they got stuff that's going to help you sleep at night. This is one of my favorite products right here. This is the VIIA Hemp Flow State, 20 milligrams CBD, 60 milligrams of CBG, B12, alpha GPC, and lion's mane. I got a long day of filming, getting all this content, and I take one of these bad boys. Absolutely delicious. And it helps with my recovery from a long, hard day of lifting weights. It's delicious too. They also have high premium flour, and they also have products going to help you sleep good at night. They get you at that zen level, that way your body can decompress and relax. Now, if you guys want to try VIIA Hemp, look down in the description below. Click on that, take a look at the website, and see if VIIA Hemp is a good product for you. I love to take it. The holiday season is right around the corner, and I like to use some of the products to get me elevated during a family gathering, just to relax, take the edge off, and kick back and relax with the wife and kids and enjoy my holiday season. Shout out to VIIA Hemp for sponsoring this episode of the MightyCast. Now, let us get back to our guest. Well, and also you built that athletic ability, right? It wasn't just specialized in one sport. So your muscles and your joints, you have that speed, that explosion from playing football, track, the long distance, and the cardio. I mean, the 400, 800, I believe that's what you said you run. Those are the toughest races. I ran track and I was 1600 and 3200, but every once in a while we have to do the 400 and 800 just to get our times faster for the 1 mile race, because, one lap, 400 meters. So like, okay, we're going to try to hit a 50, 51, 400 meters. Those are the toughest races in track, right? 100 meter dash, 200 meter dash, that shit is easy. Big dig shit is 400 meters and 200 meters. 800 meters. Those races ain't no joke. So it gave you this all around athletic ability. And I wanted to pick your brain about that because, I have 3 kids. Oldest son, he loves jiu-jitsu. Middle son, he just started getting into football. He's like playing, a gridiron level. He also does MMA and his jiu-jitsu, but his jiu-jitsu game is so good. Like his coordination is so good. I'm like, why don't you just do more jiu-jitsu? He goes, it's all good, man. I'm here just to hang out and have a good time. And I don't want them to get burned out, but I also want to keep them active. And my oldest, he loves to compete and he's thinking about starting to do football. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do football. Let's get your hands good. But, jiu-jitsu is, I can tell it's his calling. Like he loves it. It's his passion. He's very good in no-gi and gi. So I wanted to pick your brain because I was like, damn, this man's been wrestling. He's 5 years old and you're still active. Now you're doing mixed martial arts. We'll get to that point. But, you went through college and wrestled and you wrestled at a national level. You won national titles. Have you ever thought about going to the Olympics? Was that ever in the cards or were you just like, nah, I'm good at the national level?
Yeah, so it was always on my mind. My main goal with wrestling was to be a 4-time undefeated national champion collegiately. I didn't achieve that, but that was always like in my head what I wanted to do with wrestling. The Olympics was also, on my mind. It was kind of almost a secondary goal for me, but it was, a big thing. And so when I graduated college in 2019. And then over 2020, everything got pushed back because of COVID. So my plan was do the Olympic trials in 2020 and then transition over to MMA right after that. And so it got pushed back a year. And I was like, oh, man, what do I do? Do I like start training MMA or do I just like try to finish this out with wrestling? And I ultimately decided that I wanted to give my all in wrestling and do everything I could do and then go out on that note, not feeling like I didn't give it everything I had. And so I competed in the 2021 Olympic trials. I got second. I lost to David Taylor in the finals, and he ended up going on winning a gold medal. And so, at that point I knew, I could train another 3-4 years and try to make the Olympic team in 24 or, and at that point I'll be, 28, 29 years old. And so do I want to do that or do I want to dive all in on MMA? And I just felt more passionate and more excited to transition over to fighting, it was a tough decision. Like it took a little bit of time because as I said, I didn't achieve everything that I wanted to in wrestling, but I also knew that where my heart was at. And, now looking back on it, I'm really glad I made the decision that I did.
Yeah, that's what's up. Now, does your dad still coach you at all in the wrestling? Like, son, your duck under, your double A shots looking kind of weak. You're leading with your head. Where those hips at? Does he still coach you at all?
A little bit. We'll talk about stuff once in a while. He's a high school wrestling coach still, so he retired for a few years of coaching, and now he's getting back into it. But he loves it, and so yeah, we'll chat about stuff. But it's interesting because since I was very young, from 5 to 18. That was like what we did together. It was wrestling and we'd be on all these trips and we just spent so much time together through that. And then in college, going to Penn State, it was like he did a good job of kind of taking a step back and letting my coaches coach me, not being overbearing. And at that time, there's just a lot going on. Like you're becoming a man, you're figuring yourself out. And so my dad and I had to almost like relearn and like rewire our relationship because it had been so wrestling focused. And now I feel like, he's one of my best friends. And I feel really lucky because a lot of people don't have that with their dad, especially if my dad was pretty hard on me. He pushed me and he made sure that like there was no stones unturned when it came to training. Like we were really getting after it at a young age. And so, most of the time when I see that, the people, they don't really appreciate that or have that close a relationship with my dad or with their dads. And for me, it's the opposite. I'm super close with them but our relationship is different now. It's more just like a close friendship, which I love. We are hanging out on Sundays, come over, eat food, watch a football game or something, and just kind of have a more of a friendship, which I think is good. I needed that like dad/coach growing up, and he was hard on me, and we did our thing. And now it's like I'm mature. He taught me so many lessons, and I'm so grateful for him. And now he can almost like. We can be a little. It's just a different type of bond, but I feel like, there's a time and place for that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, I hope I have the same thing with my son, because I can only imagine you're in there fighting. He goes, son, how the hell you gonna shoot with your fucking head, huh? Like, I taught you better than, you know. I don't know what the you know, the dinner talks are like when you have, you know, your dad basically was your coach for 5, you know, up to a point where you went to college, and now you're transitioning into mixed martial arts. And, you know, a lot of your wrestling and a lot of that work ethic that your dad has seen you done since you were a kid, I can see if he just give me this shit. It's like, I can't believe you shot like that. Like, I didn't teach you that. Maybe they taught you that shit at college, but don't let it happen again. But
yeah.
Okay, so you transitioned to mixed martial arts, right? Now, what was that transition like? For me, the hardest thing for me was not turtling, because as wrestlers, we don't want to go to our back, right? We go to our back, we get pinned, the match is over. So for me, when I would start doing mixed martial arts, I would go to all 4 and I'll get choked out. Matt Hume was like, oh, I'm putting you to sleep. Stop turtling. I'm putting you to sleep. Putting you to sleep. And I'm like, fuck, God. And then I started sleeping on my back. What was the hardest transition for you when you went to mixed martial arts?
You know, it's interesting. I picked up jiu-jitsu pretty quick. Obviously, still learning, still growing, trying to improve that area of my game. But the jiu-jitsu came pretty fast. I always had a wrestling style that I think fit, just because I was, you know, rolling on my back a lot. Like, if I had to roll to my back to, you know, give up a couple points to get the pin or to get some points, then I was never afraid to do that. And you mentioned earlier, like, I wrestled predominantly folk style, but as a kid I wrestled tons of freestyle and Greco, like almost just as much as I had wrestled folk style. And so you know, just those different styles, and I think just my experience with scrambling and different things like that, I was really comfortable with that. But the hardest thing for me to learn, I would say, is like, honestly, like kicks, calf kicks, body kicks, throwing kicks, checking kicks. It's like just such a different thing, and you have to be so loose. Like, when I noticed, like, when I'm throwing kicks and stuff, I could throw like 3 or 4 kicks and I'm gassed out, or I get kicked a couple times and I'm gassed out. So, you know, that for me was like the biggest, I would say difference. And then, you know, overall, just figuring out how to blend everything together, figuring out how to, like, all right, I know how to throw a jab, I know how to throw a cross. How do I blend that with my wrestling? You know, how do I blend the wrestling with the jiu-jitsu? You know, that's kind of where it's the toughest part, but it's also the most fun, because I get to be creative and figure that type of thing out. And that's really, you know, a big reason that I love wrestling and I love MMA, is just the creativity and being able to, you know, figure out that path to victory. It could look different based on your opponent or based on, you know, the way you want to win, and just kind of like, you know, being able to make it your own, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does. Where are you training? Like, where are you training? Are you in Florida? Whereabouts? What gym do you train with?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Florida. Basically, when I transitioned to MMA, I'm kind of a planner, so I had this all planned out. I spoke with Dan Lambert at American Top Team. I wrestled in State College at Penn State, and I love that area. And I saw this kind of trend with wrestlers where they all, you know, transition to MMA, and it's like, all right, I knock a guy out and now I'm a freaking striker. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I decided to, you know, as I said, reach out to Dan Lambert at American Top Team, and we ended up building a gym about 10 minutes away from Penn State campus, where that's where I started training. And so they brought on 3 full-time coaches up there, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. And then basically what I was doing is every morning training MMA, and then the afternoons I still go wrestle with the Penn State team. So I'm still wrestling the best guys in the world almost every day. And right now I have a fight coming up, so I jumped down to American Top Team in Coconut Creek, the main facility where we have, you know, over 100 pros, so I can get a bunch of good sparring rounds and stuff like that. So basically I'm bouncing from Pennsylvania and Florida, just based on my needs, what makes sense for me at the time.
Now, and I'm assuming home base is Pennsylvania, right?
Yep.
So every day, so you basically have a facility that's not designed for you, but we can both agree that, you know, you guys built this for you. So you're still wrestling every day with high level wrestlers, and then you're also getting your mixed martial arts training in Pennsylvania. Then when it's time to get, you know, 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks after the fight, you fly down to the headquarters in Florida. Then that's where you're around everybody else who's getting ready for a fight and training as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, you know, I think starting off, it's obviously just like a lot of skill work, figuring stuff out. So that's where, you know, it makes sense for me to be in PA. And we have the idea behind the gym is obviously, it started with me, but we have tons of guys at Penn State that are interested in, transition to MMA. And then we have other wrestlers that around the country that have actually moved out and are now living there full time. The hard part about it is I'm the most experienced guy and I only have 6 pro fights. I've been fighting for 2 years. And so I got to be around more experienced guys. So I balance that and obviously the best wrestling in the world with coming out to ATT and getting good, hard sparring rounds with guys and just being able to be around all these guys with 30, 40, 50 pro fights and get to kind of just be thrown into the fire a little bit as well.
Gotcha. Well, I'll say you jumped right into the fire once you did, a lot of wrestlers, I feel now like wrestling is not a dead end sport, but I feel like, you play basketball and you're a super high level basketball player. You play for high school, and if you're really good, you go straight to NBA, or you go to college, then you go to NBA. Same thing with football. High level football, you go from football, high school, college, NFL. Wrestling, there is like no outlet. It goes wrestling in high school, college, Olympics, you're done. Now you're seeing a lot of wrestlers find success by transitioning either into mixed martial arts. I mean, the list just goes on. Daniel Cormier, myself, John Jones, Henry Cejudo, et cetera, et cetera. They go from the Olympics or college into mixed martial arts. Or you see the wrestlers go into grappling, no-gi grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you did that. You went against the king, Gordon Ryan. You suplexed him. I feel sometimes when the wrestlers get the opportunity to go against Jiu-Jitsu guys, and I understand it's grappling, but I feel like we're at a losing end. Well, wrestlers are at a losing end. You're fucking him up on the feet. You're suplexing him. You're throwing around, and then he gets you. Right? What made you go for the king, in grappling at that time? Instead of like, I'm going to take it easy, fight, but you're seeing a lot of wrestlers do it. What was the thought process on that?
It was interesting. So the match, the way it came about, I had talked to Gordon a few times about training together because I was like, this guy's the best in the world. I'm for me, that's the type of people I want to surround myself with and want to learn from. So, knowing I was going to transition over to MMA, I was like, that's a guy I would like to train with. And he was competing in an event and he had like a big fight and then it fell out. And then another guy came in and it fell out. And it was like 2 or 3 guys had pulled out of the fight for whatever reason. And I was like, I just DM'd him. I was like, hey, bro, like, I don't know what the issue is, why nobody will go against you, but like, count me in, man. I'll do it. Like, tell the promoter to hit me up. And I was just like, I don't know, just wanted to challenge myself and fill it out. And so he said he got me in touch with the promoter and they're like, yeah, this would be great. Let's do it. And I was like, all right, well, I better start practicing jiu-jitsu. So I did 3 jiu-jitsu practices. Yeah. So Monday.
You're like, I'll do 3 jiu-jitsu practice. I'm going to take it to the, no one wants to fight him. And then you go out there and you compete. I mean, you did. That's a thing. Like, you even seen Aljamain Sterling. He did a competition where he grabbed the guy, he's swinging him around. He's like, it's always, that's the thing. Like jiu-jitsu, the beginning of it was all about self-defense, right? It's like self-defense. How can I defend myself? If you were to, suplex him and drive him on his head, just like whack, break his neck. It's like, dude, your jiu-jitsu doesn't work if I can slam you on your neck, right? So I just feel like when I see the wrestlers and I'm like, oh God, we're so good on the feet. Then when it goes to the ground, it's like, whap, whap, whap.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For me, that was honestly, it was bittersweet. I wanted to go in there and shock the world and win and just rep wrestling and be like, see, the jiu-jitsu doesn't work. But it also taught me that how much I do need to work on that part of my game and how important it is because, being able to it's very helpful in a fight, obviously, to decide where the fight goes. But for me, I'm always been a finisher. Like with wrestling, it was always go for the pin, get the pin. And so I realized that with MMA, if I'm going to take a guy down, you can TKO a guy, of course, but guys are pretty tough. They're durable and they're good at, not getting hit too much. And so you got to figure out ways to pass, ways to, get position, get mount, take the back and submit guys. It's definitely the most, if you're really good, I think, the path of least resistance to get a lot of wins and honestly just like save yourself some, effort and some energy and save yourself some brain damage. Like for me, I can throw everybody on the ground, and then, if I find out how to get my jiu-jitsu as good as my wrestling, and, then taking guys back, submitting them, it's no danger for me and easy wins. So that's the way I look at it now, is like, I want my wrestling's world class. I think my jiu-jitsu can become world class very quickly. And then, as I continue to just continue on this journey in martial arts, as you mentioned, that I'll develop the striking as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. I saw that where you came on the scene, because I don't know if you had your amateur fights before then, or was that you were training and then you did the Gordon Ryan match. Which one was first? No,
I did the jiu-jitsu match before anything. So I was actually still wrestling. Yep. I had a couple months until the Olympic trials, and I hadn't competed in a while either. I hadn't competed since that was in November, December, and it was January was my last competition. So I was like, I want to compete. That's I love it. That's for me. I love training, but competing is the peak. That's what I want to do most. And so, I had never even done any MMA training, just wrestling. And I was just like, all right, I do some guys in Pittsburgh that had a BJJ gym, some pretty high level guys. So I was like, hey, try to show me some stuff and we'll get after it. But yeah, I mean, maybe in the future we'll get a rematch, and I'm a blue belt now, so I have a little more experience.
Hey. Well, man, when it comes to no-gi, it's all about the leg lock game, man. Heel hooks, toe holds, knee bars. That's what it's always about. You see Nicky Rod, who comes from a very good wrestling background, and he's taking people down, passing their guard, taking their back, body triangle, rear naked choke over and over. So I think from your lineup, what you've done so far in your career, when you focus more on wrestling, look what you were able to achieve. And you're undefeated in mixed martial arts, 100% finisher rate. I'm sure if you just focus purely on no-gi grappling, I'm sure you'll get it to world class. Your work ethic won't let you down, essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a big thing that I'm noticing with MMA is there's a lot of people that are so talented, just incredible athletes, are so, just blessed with good instincts. And, but I don't think a lot of people are willing to be disciplined and make the sacrifices that you just see everybody doing in wrestling, right? I think I definitely took the discipline and the sacrifice and the commitment, the work ethic to a very high level, but in wrestling, it's kind of just the standard, that's just what you do. And that's what you're part of a team, you're part of a system, whether that's your school or your club or your high school or your college. And it's just the groups kind of, this is how we do things. And in MMA, you don't see that quite as much. And I think people maybe have some success, get overconfident, feel like they're not that, they kind of got things figured out, when in reality, it's as you mentioned, it's a journey. Always learning, always growing, improving. And for me, I think that's been my focus as of lately. I've changed my mindset from I want to achieve these goals and I want to be this and that in fighting to I just want to continue to get better, improve, and see how far I can go. Because even when I put this big lofty goal out in front of me, I'm still limiting myself in a way, because who knows what I could do if I just continue to get better and improve.
Yep. Okay, now I want to transition to, you went from the Gordon Ryan match, suplexing his ass, and then you had your first 2 amateur fights and you won those. I loved when I watched them, you had the shin pads on, you had the shin pads with the tape around them. Hey, don't laugh, man. Don't laugh. You're protecting yourself. I think that's how it should be every amateur match. Then right after those 2, you went straight to Dana White's Contender Series, right?
I had one pro fight after those 2 amateur fights. So what happened was I wrestled the Olympic trials in April of 2021. And then I had an injury prior, so I took a few months off to rehab. In August of 2021, I started training. September, I took my first amateur fight. So 5 weeks after, I trained for 5-6 weeks. And then I scheduled the next one a month later. And then I took 6 more months to train. And then I fought, or 7 more months to train. And I fought in June of 2022. That was my first pro fight. And then maybe August or September after that was my Contender Series fight. So it was quick. It was pretty crazy, but it was fun. But
you had so much, competition from all the wrestling. Like all that wrestling, I always tell people, I feel wrestling is probably the best base you can have for mixed martial arts because you go through the weight cutting, right? That's a huge thing in mixed martial arts nowadays is people missing weight, trying to find that weight class where their body functions the best. And you wrestle the cream of the crop in, nationals, in college, everywhere. And now, you just got to figure out how to get your hands correctly. So you had 2 amateur fights, you did 1 pro fight, and then you jump right into a Dana White Contender Series. Walk me through that because you see a lot of people when they get into the UFC, it's either they get signed on immediately, or they either go to the Ultimate Fighter route or they go Dana White Contender Series. So I think you're the first guest we had on here that's, went through the Dana White Contender Series.
Yeah, it was interesting. So basically what happened was my first pro fight, it was kind of weird. There was a guy from like Florida that was actually calling me out. He was like, I want Bo Nickal, let's fight. And I was like, all right, bro, let's do it. And so my first pro fight, I knocked this guy out in 30 seconds. And it was on UFC Fight Pass. And it was a crazy knockout. I was like, hit him with the left hand. He dropped. He came back up. And I was like, uppercut, left hook, right hand. And he went out stiff. And I was like, oh, that was crazy. And it got a bunch of views and a bunch of attention. And then basically like everybody was calling after that. PFL, Bellator, WON, UFC. And I was like, dang, like what's I'm 1-0. Like I haven't even been fighting for a year, but I talked with my manager and he was like, listen, man, like, I don't even know if you'll get another fight on the regional scene. Like we could have you fight in a bigger regional promotion against a guy with 15 fights, or we can just freaking go for it. And I was like, well, let's do it. And UFC proposed that I go on Contender Series. And so I was like, that works great. I can get another fight and get some experience before I, move into the big leagues per se. And so, yeah, for me, it was just like, let's do it. Let's go. And I felt like that since then, really, it's just been like almost a hyper focus on what I'm doing. I don't have the luxury of taking, 5, 6, 7 amateur fights and getting 10 fights on the regional scene before I'm in the big show. So I've had to be that much more hyper focused on what I'm doing and really doubling down on my training, my recovery, my film study, things like that. And for me, it was just like, I'm a competitor. As I mentioned, I love it. I love competing. And so when that opportunity came, I was just like, let's go. Let's do it. And
then you had 2 Dana White Contender Series fights?
Yeah. So my first fight on Contender Series, took the guy down, choked him out in about a minute. And Dana basically was like, he's only 2-0. I want to see some more. Yeah.
I remember that. I remember they were talking about like, oh, should Bo Nickal be in the UFC? Da 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 da. And Dana was like, we're going to give him one more shot. I need to see a little. I'm going to see if he's a real deal. I remember those talks, and I was like, okay. I mean, let's see.
Yeah, I was a little mad about it initially because I was like, dang, I finished this guy in a minute. Like, how could I have done more? But at the end of the day, it was great because I got another fight, got more experience. And then, the next one went even better. So, it was at that point, I was kind of undeniable that the UFC was, I was ready for it.
Yeah, that's what's up. Now, you've had how many fights? You've had 4 fights?
3 fights in the UFC.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was, 2 on Contenders, 3 in the UFC.
Yep. And right now, so a lot of our staff members, in the MightyCast or whatnot, believe... It's funny because you're undefeated, all finishes, you're 28 years old. Typically, anybody else in your shoes, like you look at Diego Lopez, he fights all the time, right? He's fighting all the time. I think he fought 3 times last year. You don't fight as frequently, right? Like you'll fight and then you'll kind of disappear. Then you come back and fight. You come back and then you disappear. I tell the staff, I was like, guys, you got to understand, it is up to the athlete to decide when they want to fight, right? There's some of the, the staff are like, he should be fighting more. He's undefeated. I don't understand why he's not fighting. I'm like, guys, it's his choice. Is there a reason why you like to, I feel like you're taking your time, right? You're still young. What is it? Like, can you help me settle down with the staff members? Because I'm getting it all the time. When I said, hey, Bo Nickal says he's going to come on, they'll go, fucking ask him back if he hasn't fighting as much. Because you got to think about it. Like 6-0, you're young, you're healthy. You fight 2 more times. You're out there fighting often and more frequently. They'll be like, hey, here's your title shot. So what is that?
Yeah, I think that for me, the most important thing is developing, and I don't want to skip steps on development. Most people get like you mentioned Diego Lopez, guys like that are kind of, I guess I don't know if the new wave of the UFC, but the new young guys coming up, even him, like these guys have 20 plus pro fights, so it's like he feels like he's ready to go. I fought 6 times in a little over 2 years, so is that infrequent? I wouldn't say it's infrequent. I think people maybe forget that I've only been fighting since the summer of 2022 professionally. And so, to get 6 fights in that amount of time, I don't think that's like...
That's pretty good, actually. That's 3 a year.
But I think... yeah, it's 3 years. So, but with that being said, I think it's really a good thing because people want to see me fight. They want to see me compete. Yep. And personally, I want to compete as much as I can, but at the end of the day, it's like, I fight, let's say I fight a ranked guy next, then I fight a top 5 guy, and then I'm fighting for the title. It's not it's not like this long path that I have to get to where I want to go. And so for me, the development and the improvement, a lot of it has to happen in training because I feel like I can compete with and beat the best guys in the world right now, but I don't want it to be competitive when it happens. So when I go out there and I'm competing for the belt, I want it to look like a masterclass where this guy's not even on my level. And, I think right now there's a lot of improvements that I need to make to get to that point. I think that it's not all 100% up to me with the timing of how things work out, but I'm going to do my best to be prepared. And I feel like I'm just been put in a position where I have to make those improvements in training. And I don't have the luxury of being able to get 15, 20 fights before I'm there. Like I'm realistically probably going to be there at 10, 11 fights, so that's pretty unheard of. I don't know really many people outside of Alex Pereira and maybe like Brock Lesnar that are fighting at that level with less than, 10 professional MMA fights. And with that, Pereira obviously had however many 50, 60, 70 kickboxing fights. So, and he's 37 years old, so for me, I just try to factor all those things in. And again, the most important thing that I care about is developing and improving and being the best fighter I can be.
Well, boom. I think that settles that debate in the fucking office because I'm sitting there walking around my coffee. I was like, okay, guys, we're not Bo Nickal on. He goes, how come his ass? He should be fighting a lot more. I was like, guys, it's up to the athlete when we want to fight, right? And I think what your mindset is about the development, right? Because once you get there, right, that was one of the things that me and Matt always talked about is that like once you get to the big leagues, back in the day, it was like you lose 2-3 fights, walking papers. So like, here you go. Good luck, find somewhere else to go. So I had a very, very long amateur career in doing kickboxing, shoot boxing, a boxing match, a kickboxing match, Muay Thai, and then a handful of jiu-jitsu tournaments, and then mixed martial arts amateur fights. And then when I finally went pro, it was like, all right, we're here now. We can't drop the ball. If we do drop the ball, it's got to be, that fight had to be amazing. They had to take it from you. And that's when I lost to Brad Pickett. And then after that, it was like we kept on getting better. And I was developing because I was still young. I was 26 when I got to the UFC and we're developing. And now it's like I'm obviously retired. But at the very end of my career, it was like, dude, we are striving for perfection and we still have a lot more to go. But like we said in the beginning, it's a journey. Like you're always going to continue to get better. So I think you taking the time to develop that way, when you get to the world title shot, whoever it may be at 185, you're like, I'm going to make it look easy, real easy. And everyone's like, how are you going to make it look easy? They'll be like, you're going to be like, because I've been taking time to study, develop, and not leave one stone unturned. I've went through everything, how this fight's going to go through, and I'm going to impress everybody. I'm going to shock the world right now.
100%. Yeah, that's absolutely my mindset. And I think that there's this interesting dynamic between the fans and the fighters where it's like, we're the ones that are in the position we have to go out there at the end of the day and fight and prepare and do everything we have to do. And I think the fans, they're never going to get it accurate. It's either going to be, oh, he's not good, or, oh, he needs to fight more, or, oh, he's never going to be the champ, or, oh, he should fight for the belt right now. And it's like, in reality, we're probably somewhere in the middle of that. And again, yeah, for me, it's leaving no stones unturned, making sure that I'm just continuing to improve in fighting and, just overall just get better. And I think that this stuff for me is like, it's really fun. Like the moment I know the moment that I go out there when it happens, that I'm going to feel confident, I'm going to feel prepared, and I'm going to enjoy it. Right. And I'm not going to rush it. And, I'm not here I don't have like a timeline where it's like, I got to be done fighting at 32. It's like, I'm just going till I feel like I've done what I need to do in this sport, and then we'll move on. And I'll probably do the same thing as you. I'll start competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff like that because I love it. And it's so fun for me. But I think that that gets maybe lost a little bit on the fans, because at the same time, for them, it's entertainment, and, they're one to follow storylines and see certain guys and things like that. And I think that, they forget maybe that we're also people that are just trying to live a good life and have fun.
Yep, I agree. And that, how's your body feel? Like, you've been going since you're 5 years old at the highest level. Like, you got some miles on you. Like, how does your body feel? And then what do you do to keep your body, strong, healthy, and right. Just strong. Like, I tell everybody, like, I still do, I do sauna, ice barrel, and I still lift weights. Like I do beach body muscles where it's like, okay, we're going to do chest, tries, back and buys, and we'll do core. We don't touch the legs because we can run. So we're good. What do you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, first off, I feel great. This is, as you mentioned, I've competed so much and trained for such a long time, but I feel the best I ever have. I think because, I just prioritize taking care of myself. It's really important. I see a lot of people that have had injuries and issues. And, I think part of that is just the way they compete. Maybe they don't protect themselves as well as they should in training. So I'm very particular about, protecting myself. And I'm not, if somebody's going to take me down and I need to twist my knee to defend it, like, just take me down, bro. I'll just get up. No worries. So yep. I don't really, I don't put myself in compromising positions. And, I've been fortunate to I've never had a surgery, never had an injury, I've never had like a serious injury that needed a surgery, right? Like, I've had some serious injuries, but nothing that's been like, surgical repair. So hopefully we'll keep that consistent. But as far as like taking care of myself, I do a whole heck of a lot to make sure my body feels good. I'm doing generally like 2 recovery days a week, active recovery, where I'm getting hot tub, cold tub, maybe a little red light therapy, doing hyperbaric chambers. My strength conditioning nutrition coach is Sam Calavito with the Training Lab. And so he helps me a ton, so much with my nutrition, make sure it's dialed in and making sure that I'm doing every single little thing that I need to do to be as healthy as possible. And, I'm doing generally 2 or 3 strength conditioning workouts a week. And then I also work with a guy, his name's Christopher Maher. He's out of San Diego, and he essentially helps with some exercises and different things to remove as much tension from my body as possible. So things that we're putting tension on our body, whether we're lifting weights, whether we're training, striking, grappling, whatever it is, this your muscles get tense and you're putting a lot of stress into your body. But I do a lot of work to just different stretches and exercises and things of that nature to remove that tension and stress as well. And, of course, working on the mental side of the game, doing a lot of visualization, but also just, again, clearing stress and clearing tension as much as I can.
When you say clearing tension, like, what do you mean by that? Like, are you getting it through just stretching? Or, because it does make sense, like, we're putting so much stress on our body when we're training mixed martial arts, not just physically, but also mentally. So, mentally, people will look at it, a psychiatrist or a mental coach. You sit down like, oh man, I feel like, me running 16 miles a day, is it going to be enough for me to beat this person? And he's like, you ran 16 miles. What did you think he did? But you're talking about, releasing stress in the body, physically. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so physically, basically, when we lift something heavy or do some like punch a bag or a person, like that impact, it's our body's really smart, so it's absorbing that and kind of it has that inside it. And so, the guy that I work with, Christopher, he takes more of an Eastern philosophy, Eastern medicine philosophy, and so we're doing things like there are these types of stretches, but you're kind of very active while you're stretching. So, stretching your quads, stretching your hamstrings, glutes, different muscle groups. And you're like using either a wall or a partner as a means to like give you a little resistance while you stretch and while you move through a range of motion. And doing that has helped me, exponentially, just feeling like my joints are stable and secure and feeling like, I don't get little pulled muscles and things like that here and there that are just kind of nagging. When I'm on top of it, all that stuff goes away. And one of my favorite things that we do, it's called Miocic. So it translates, it's a Chinese word. It translates in English to horse stomping. And so what you're going to do is, you're going to lay on your belly. You have a partner who straightens your legs out, and they're just going to turn their feet sideways and stomp on your hamstrings and go all the way up and down your hamstrings and stomp on you for, we usually do like a set of 10 or 15 minutes. And it's like, it seems kind of weird. It's like kind of a massage-esque, but that for me has been like incredible. And you can do this on any muscle group. So you do it on hamstring, quad, calves, and, for the first time you do it, it's like incredible pain. Like it hurts so bad. You feel like, wow, like I can't even bear this for another second.
I was gonna say, it's like where you said stepping, like stomping on like the calves. All I could think about was Dave Chappelle. Fuck your couch, Charlie Murphy, just stepping on your calves, like fuck your calves, Bo Nickal, fuck him.
Exactly. But it's funny because after the first time you do it, the next time it's like it feels great, and it might hurt for a second, but then it starts to be like actually very pleasurable. But that's just removing that, removing that tension, removing that stress out of the muscle that you're putting into it, the rest of the week. And so, that's been a big priority for me, is making sure that I just feel good. Whenever I'm feeling good, I know I'm going to do what I need to do.
Damn, that's what's up. I'm not thinking about that, baby. You want to step on my feet, step on my back, my calves. They call it, what's it called? Moshing. Yes. Sure. What the hell does that mean? It translates to horse stomping in Chinese from American. I learned it from Bo Nickal. She's like, oh, he speaks Chinese? A little bit, I believe. Just a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Now try it out. It's not fun at first, but you'll be glad you did it.
Love that. Okay, now we have a big fight for you coming up. You're taking on Paul Craig, right? Now, I think the other athletes that you fought recently didn't really specialize in anything, but I feel like Paul Craig's very known for his ground game, right? His jiu-jitsu. But, you submitted people, you've knocked people out. How are you feeling about this fight, fighting someone who specializes? I'm not saying Paul Craig isn't very good on his feet, but he's had some, a lot of success off his back.
Right. Now, I feel great about the fight. I'm really excited. I think that this is a step up in competition for me, which is what I'm looking for. Every single fight, I want a bigger challenge and a step up. And so, Paul Craig's a guy that poses a lot of problems. He's finished some of the best guys in the world. 205ers that have, one spot for the belt, one's ranked, I think number 1 or number 2 right now. And so, he's definitely a dangerous guy. And I think that for me, this has given me a chance to zoom focus on a few parts of my game. And for me, that's just all exciting. It's all development. And, I think that when I look at the fight and break it down, he definitely has a big strength on the ground. And at that, so, I think that I have an advantage on the feet, but I also think that it would be nice to be able to show my improvements on the ground in my jiu-jitsu game, and to be able to compete against a guy like that and just challenge myself. I think that, again, there's problems that he poses, and it's definitely an unusual, maybe unorthodox type of style. You don't see a lot of guys pulling guard anymore. You don't see guys throwing up triangles and throwing up arm bars, but I feel prepared, and, I have a good team around me that's been helping me get ready for this fight. And so, I'm looking to just go out there, put him on a dominant performance as always. And, really just focus. This is just a step on the path for me. I'm not training for this fight specifically. I'm really just training for my 5th, 6th, 7th title defense at the end of the day, right? Like,
hey,
that's my
look at him. Look at him thinking about 7 and 6. That shit's unheard of nowadays, baby.
We'll see. For me, that's what I'm working towards. This is, not to sound like I'm overlooking Paul Craig, because I'm absolutely focused on this, but my training and my preparation is to be, world champion and defend that title many, many times. So that's what I really have on my mind at the end of the day.
I love that. Well, I mean, if you're always focused on your development, then yeah, that makes absolutely 1000%, because when you're focused on your development, any person you step in the cage with across from you, you should beat, because you're working on the complete game as you were when you were a kid. You're working on your complete game in wrestling once you start to specialize in it, right? So I think you having that mindset in wrestling and then bringing it to mixed martial arts gives you that yeah, we're getting ready for Paul Craig and we know what he does well, but I need to make sure I'm the best version of myself when I get in there. He throws up a triangle, I'm posturing, I'm passing his guard, looking to submit him. Or if we're on his feet, I'm looking to make sure he overexposes himself. He tries to come across the void, I catch him with the right hand, I knock him out, right? So I think your development in wrestling has helped you so much with that right mindset and the work ethic in mixed martial arts. And that's why you've seen so much success right now.
For sure. I look at it like when I transitioned from high school wrestling to college wrestling, it's this big, massive jump. You're wrestling, used to wrestling kids, and now you're wrestling, 23, 24-year-old. Some of these guys are basically grown men. And, so it's a big adjustment, but I had to really go back to fundamentals, right? Like go back to baseline defense, sprawl, stuff the head, figuring out how to control a tie-up, how to get to the leg, how to finish clean, from top position, how to get inside, break my opponent down, those types of things. So I look at the same way now with MMA, where the flashy stuff, it looks great, but the reason that you're able to do the flashy stuff is if you have amazing technical fundamentals. And now it's like the better your fundamentals are, the more wide of a range of attacks you can do. And if I get into the correct position and, I can move my feet and move my hands and get into a position, I can throw a kick, throw a punch, shoot a takedown. It doesn't matter what offense I choose. I'm able to do that. And then so that's the way I like to approach it, just trying to master these fundamentals as quickly as I can.
Yeah, that's smart. Okay, well, before we let you go, I got a couple questions from the staff here. They don't always get to talk to the superstar. I get to talk to the superstar. So one of the questions that they wanted me to ask you is, how do you think the fight between Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic is going to go down? Like, what's your prediction on that? For me, I think Jon Jones is going to beat him, but I think the biggest thing is that Stipe hasn't fought in a very, very long time. Rightfully so. His last fight, he got knocked out by Francis Ngannou, and he's also a fighter. He's out there doing bigger things than work for a world title, which is saving lives and being on the front lines. So for you, what do you think about that matchup between two legends of the sport?
Yeah, first off, I love both those guys. They're awesome, amazing competitors, guys that have reached the pinnacle of the sport, and a ton of respect to both those guys. I think that, if I had to pick who's going to win the fight, I would agree. I would say Jon, just because long layoff for Stipe. And when I look at Jon's tools, he's just got such a diverse array of, attacks, offense, defense. I think if this fight were to go Stipe's way, he would probably have to get Jon tired. But I think that Jon is just so savvy in there. And to me, I would say the two smartest guys that I've seen fight are probably you and him, guys that I really respect their intelligence and their mind. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that in MMA. They talk about, oh, this guy's so strong, or he's got this or that, but they don't talk about intelligence. And that's, to me, probably the most underrated part of Jon's game is he's a very smart fighter, very sound defensively. And so I think that I would definitely lean towards him. But I'm excited to see it, so it'll be fun.
Me too. Why do you think that is? Why do you think intelligence is so underrated? Do you think it's because a lot of people don't see enough of it, right? Like you see people who have hard chins all the time. You see people who have knockout power. You see guys who are, boom, super fast and explosive. And that stuff, people talk about it more, but, you said, intelligence is so underrated. Why do you think that is?
I think it's two reasons. I think it's one, it's how the media talks about fights and what is exciting to fans. And, it's not exciting to defend a jab, but it's intelligent. It's not exciting to check a kick, but it's the smart thing to do. It's not exciting to regroup and back away from somebody when they have some momentum, but that's intelligent. And so I think MMA fans and the media, it talks about the knockout, the spinning wheel kick, the insane spinning back fist, left hand flying knee. Like that's what people want to see. So to me, that's one reason why intelligence isn't talked about. And I think 2, fighters don't talk about it. Like most fighters are talking about, I'm gonna get in there and bang, bro, let's go. Like it's gonna be a war. And I'm like, man, I don't think about it like that. I think I'm gonna go outsmart you. You know, like that's my whole thing with fighting. It was my whole thing with wrestling. I've always been a good athlete, but I think that the biggest advantage I've had is I've been able to outsmart people. And so I think more fighters should talk about the sport in that way, in a more intelligent way. And I think that the media and the fans will talk about that way. You don't hear a quarterback go into an interview in the NFL and talk about, man, I'm so good I could throw the ball 85 yards. Like they don't say, it's like cool, dude. But they don't talk about it. But they talk about, yeah, man, you know, I studied film. I know this defense's tendencies. I know what my checkdowns are. I know what the reads are on this play. And so I think that fighters should, you know, maybe talk a little more like that. And I think that would maybe be intelligence could be a little more higher on the totem pole.
God damn, I never thought about that. Like I mean, dead ass serious. Like, you know, I think one of the things that made me successful in fighting was my intelligence. But when I did my press conference or anything like that, I never talked about the intelligence side of my game plan and the strategy, right? It's like, okay, when I fight John Dotson, you know, the first time I fought him, I got caught right in the middle of that wheelhouse. And so the second time I was like, well, he needs me to stay there. As long as I don't stay there, he can't hit me. I can do whatever the fuck I want. So the second time I fought him, I was like, oh, just go past a little bit further in the void. He can't touch me. Oh, he's going to gas eventually. And then like I just watched my Ali Bagatinov fight and I'm like, oh, he's waiting for something. So I'm just going to pretend I'm going to give him something. And then I'm going to piece him up. And he should get tired because when we study all his film, he will get tired. Oh, he popped for EPO. That's why he never got. I just never thought about like talking about the intelligence side of my game until you brought up the quarterback, where it's like, yeah, I could throw it fucking 85 yards, but you don't hear that. You always hear, you know, football players talk about, you know, what they saw when they played the game. It's such, or Eli, those guys. You always hear that instead of, oh, I'm so good, I can move in the pocket, I throw dimes. They actually talked about like what they saw and what their thought process was when they were playing the game.
For sure, yeah, and I love listening now to Tom Brady commentate, or Peyton Manning or Eli Manning. These guys doing commentary, because it's like that's so cool to see They can almost predict the way it's going to go before it happens. They like know the plays. They know the plays. Or Tony Romo is another good example. They know the plays before they even hike the ball. And I think that the culture of MMA, you know, of course, it's a different sport, but I feel like it would go a long ways for fighters to talk more about this. And because you get I guess you can get respect from a more mainstream audience, like looking at it like, oh, this isn't just like two guys in their underwear trying to kill each other. Like this is a chess match. And I think also for me, the way I look at it personally is every time I speak about being smarter or fighting intelligently, that's a positive reinforcement and a mental rep I get of how I fight. That's building my reputation, and that's, you know, enforcing the way I want to compete with myself. So I don't want to sit here and say, I'm going to go knock this guy out. It's like, no, like I'm going to fight smart, and I'm going to control the distance, control the range, and I'm going to be in good position, and then I'm going to be able to do whatever I want to offensively off that. I think for me personally, the mental reps of doing that are really important.
Damn, I love it. Bo, thank you so much for your time. This is your opportunity to let people know where they can find you, how they can support you. I see you have a podcast that I just started. This is your opportunity, man. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me on. This is great. I love, you know, talking. As I mentioned, you know, you're one of the fighters that I look up to. I think you're one of the smartest guys to compete. And so, you know, I appreciate you having me on. I'm going to have to switch roles and get you on mine at some point so I can interview you.
Anytime, baby, anytime.
Yeah, you can find my podcast on YouTube. Just search Bo Nickal. It's on my own channel. And then Instagram, NoBickle1. I'm on Twitter as well. But yeah, definitely, I would appreciate it if everybody watches November 16th, Madison Square Garden, UFC 309. I'm going to put on an amazing performance, best in my career. And yeah, thanks again for having me on, Mighty Mouse. Appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely, man. You just became a new father recently, right?
Yeah. I got a 9-month-old son, so I actually brought him and the wife down to Florida to be with me while I'm training. So I'm enjoying that a lot. It's definitely the coolest thing in the world.
How's that going? How's that going being a father? Obviously, he's 9 months. It's a boy, girl, boy, 9 months old. And I know 9-month-old boy. You're married to your wife. How's that transition of doing everything, right? Because a lot of fighters, when in my day, some fighters that I've worked with or trained with, they would leave their wife and kids. They're like, I gotta go. I gotta separate. It's a selfish sport. We all know it is. I never did that. I always stayed home with my family and come home, take the kids to football, take the kids here. Okay, I got to go train. I got to go do this. For you, you brought the wife and kids. How is it for you juggling, being a professional fighter, newly father, husband? How is that going for you?
It's honestly the best. I think that when you become a dad, your whole worldview just changes. It's like, you don't really know how you're going to feel. You can't really predict it. But for me, it was like all my priorities, everything just shifted. And I want to just, more than being the best fighter or the best businessman or whatever it is that I can be, like, I just want to be the best dad I can be for my son. And I want to be a good example for him and spend as much time with him as I can. And so, nothing's going to be placed ahead of that. Like, that's the most important thing to me. And just being a good dad, being a good husband. And so, as far as fighting goes, the best place for me to train right now is in Florida. So, fortunately, my wife is really awesome, and she was willing to come with me down here. But I really I think I gain energy from spending time with my family. When I'm solo and just doing my own thing, I think I maybe overthink a little bit, or, I'm not as relaxed as I could be. But when I'm with my family, I even though I'm maybe doing more things or helping out a little more with stuff that I wouldn't have to, I feel like I gain energy from that. And it makes me that much more motivated to go train and go compete hard and do what I need to do to provide for them at the end of the day. But it's really just, my priorities. I stay aligned with them in that, I want to be a good husband, a good dad first, and, a good fighter second. But it's been great. I really enjoy it. And I have to give a huge shout out to my wife, because she's been such amazing help with, supporting me and stuff as well. And, taking care of the baby while I'm training, things like that. But yeah, it's been fun. I really, really enjoy being a dad.
Love that. That fucking bird in the background.
Oh yeah. That's how you know we're in the jungle. We're in the Florida in the jungle out here. It's crazy.
I fucking love it. Okay, last one. I just forgot about this. So the whole entire time you're wrestling in high school, obviously you're a teenager. You're not working. You're not worried about money. Then there comes a point in time you're in college and you're in a transitional period. And I think a lot of people fall off in that time frame. The reason why is because they have to go get a job. They have to figure out a way to pay for their living expenses. Did you work any part of time of you wrestle at the highest level, then you transitioned into, mixed martial arts? Because for me, right after I got out of high school, I went straight into the workforce. And then to break up the rat race or the 9 to 5, I found mixed martial arts. But for you, did you have to work at all that time, or were you just like, hey, you know what? I was blessed that I had a full ride to college and I was good to go? Or, hey, I worked at McDonald's, 40 hours a week. What did you do? Because that's what a lot of people have a hard time in our area in mixed martial arts. Like, we have pros that, I got a buddy who works at the weed dispensary just to make ends meet. And then he's trying to wait for that opportunity to get that big contract. So for you, what was that like?
Yeah, I've been really blessed, because I didn't have any debt coming out of school. And when I transitioned post-collegiately, we have at Penn State what's called the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. And so the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, basically, it's a nonprofit organization where you're paid to stay and train with the college wrestlers. So they pay us a salary, and it's all run on fundraising and donations. But basically the idea is you get guys like me and all these other guys at Penn State that have won national titles. They stay and train full time and help the new college kids out and help them prep and get ready. And so that's how I was able to basically support myself after college and transition while I was transitioning over to fighting. And it works really well because, one, I get to wrestle all the time, which is great for my game. I get to keep that sharp. And two, obviously, there was a transition or a period there where I wasn't fighting amateur fights, not making any money at all. And so they supported me. So I'm really grateful for that. And I love giving back to the guys that are, that were in the position I was in just a few short years ago, and they want to win national titles. They want to achieve their goals. And so I'm working, my wrestling training a lot of times is more geared towards helping them. And it works well. Nowadays it's a little crazy with the NIL and stuff because these kids are making like more money than me. it's pretty insane. But
he was guy fights on national television and pay-per-view, gets $50K bonus. I already made that, my friend. I didn't even go to the UFC anymore. I just do 4 years of college wrestling. I'll make more than you.
Yeah, exactly. Now they're good to go now. I missed out on that, but yeah, and I love helping them out and kind of just like taking that a little more of a teaching role, and so, but yeah, very fortunate that I was able to, support myself and my family through that transitionary period with NLWC.
Dude, that's badass. I didn't know they had a program like that because that's where I feel a lot of people kind of fall off the wagon, essentially, because once you get out of high school, it's like, hey, you either got to go to work and you're working 40 hours a week and you're going to college. There's no time for training, right? Like they're just, and you can't afford to pay for training. Essentially, like when I first started, I couldn't afford it. And then I had a friend who paid for me. And so luckily, I had a job I could make the monthly payments. But that first initial cost up front, first month and last month or whatever, it was a weird ass thing they had at the satellite school. I wasn't able to make that payment. So I didn't know how you were able to do it because, like I said before, I see a lot of people fall off. They're like, dude, I can't even make it to the gym because I got to fucking work 40 to 50 hours a week just to make ends meet. So shout out to you and that program at Penn State for allowing you to go back and wrestle and give you a salary, and you were able to train and continue to your journey in mixed martial arts. So that's fucking awesome.
Definitely. Yeah. Very grateful for that, and I'd always try to do my best to give back to the program because I know they were there for me. They were there for me for 5 years while I was in school and even, postgraduate. So, now it's I just have a real mindset of gratitude and definitely will continue to give back. Hopefully I win the belt and make a bunch of money and I can send some money back to them.
Boom. That's what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our guest, Bo Nickal. Make sure you do yourself a favor. Go to his YouTube channel. Check out his podcast, Bo Nickal, at YouTube, and check out his Instagram. I am your host. Michael Wansover, the producer, is not here. He's in the air right now, flying wherever the hell he's flying home from, probably from Thailand with the lady boys. But I'm here with the great Bo Nickal. I'm your host, Demetrious Johnson, and we will see you guys at the next episode of the MightyCast. Boom! What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Recap. Now, this part of the episode is where we recap everything we just went through with our guest, which was Bo Nickal. Man, the biggest thing that I took from the conversation with Bo Nickal, we talked a little bit off camera after the recording, and what a class act guy. For him to still have the love of competition after training since 5 years old, being in wrestling from 5 to 20, I believe he's 28 now. That's a long time competing. Like I started competing in sports when I was right around, I think, middle school. So, about 16 years old. And that's when I got into wrestling. And then I wrestled up to high school, didn't go to college to wrestle. So my time of competition was only maybe a handful of years, maybe 8 years from, 6th, 7th, 8th, actually not 6th grade, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So I only did a legitimate 6 years of competition in high school, to when you see these guys who competed ever since they were 5 years old all the way up to college level, and they're not burnt out. Where in my area, you see them get burnt out. They just focus on one sport, and that is it. Like, they go on, they specialize at a very, very young age. They're like, I'm gonna be the best baseball player, I'm gonna be the best basketball player, or the best football player. And by the time they get to high school or college, they're like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. So to see him go from 5 years old all the way up to where he's at now and still have a love for it, and not just for him to have a love for it, but for him to have a good relationship with his father, right? That's the biggest thing. Because for me, being a father and helping my son through his jiu-jitsu journey, Maverick through his football journey, and my daughter through her gymnastics journey, I want to be there and help them and guide them through their journey, but not, hinder my relationship as a father. I want to be their best friend, but also be a good father figure for them, where like, it's not always coach. So to hear him and his father still have a good relationship, that makes me happy. And it gives me hope that I'll be able to have a great relationship. I know I will have a great relationship with my kids. Now, one of the biggest questions around the area in the staff room was Bo Nickal doesn't fight enough. But when he broke it down that he fought 3 times in 2 years. Well, 1 year. So 3 fights in 1 year. And it's smart. He's taking his time. He has 6 fights total, 2 amateur, 1 pro, and he's fought 4 times. So my math might be wrong there, but you guys can fix that. But from what I remember, he told me 2 amateur fights, which he doesn't count the amateur fights, and in his pro record. Then he had 1 pro fight. Then he went to Dana White Contender Series. I don't know if that's considered pro, or it might be sanctioned. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into the Dana White Contender Series, how it affects your record. Then he's had some big fights in the UFC. Now his next opponent, Paul Craig, who's had some success in the UFC. He's beaten Jamal Hill. I remember he broke Jamal Hill's arm, and Jamal was like, look at my arm, man, what am I gonna do with it? He's had some success. Nice taking on Bo Nickal, where Bo Nickal has gone against the best grappler in the world in Gordon Ryan. He suplexed him. So I'm not too worried about the ground game, or, Bo Nickal could get caught. But after talking to him, how he's focused on his development as a martial artist, and when he gets the opportunity to fight for world title, and when he wins the world title, he wants to make it look easy. And that's something that Matt has always told me and instilled in me, is that we're going to work on your development. We want to strive for perfection. We want to be the perfect mixed martial artist. We want to strive to be the best version of ourselves and the best mixed martial artist. So we always are striving for that. And that was Matt's goal all along. So to hear Bo Nickal say he's, focused on his development, and that's why he doesn't want to rush to fight as often, makes sense. But when he said, I fought 3 times in 1 year, in 2 years, he has fought a lot. But I also think there's some strategic play on the UFC's part of trying to put him on the right cards in front of everybody. He's fighting on the MSG card with Jones versus Stipe. That's a big fight. They want to put him there. That way, if he does win, excitingly, they're building another star. A lot of people who are tuning in to see the Jones and Stipe fight, they're also going to see Bo Nickal compete on the highest stage. And one of the biggest cards of the year, MSG. MSG is always a banger, right? It's New York City. All the stars come out for it. Everybody, it's the end of the year. So it makes sense. Now, another thing that I found interesting with the conversation with Bo Nickal was how, he was talking about transitioning, or once we hung up, or once we stopped recording, he was talking about, potentially after he's done with his mixed martial arts run, he wants to keep on competing. And he was asking me, how do you like the, jiu-jitsu scene? I said, it's great, man. I like to do the gi. He'll probably go into the no gi. And I think him always want to compete and make the best version of himself and strive to be world-class, not just in mixed martial arts. He's already become a world-class wrestler, but I could tell he wants to be a world-class grappler. Right, like when he went against Gordon Ryan, he was like, "Damn, he took that grapple match after 3 practices in jiu-jitsu. Granted, he had that that long wrestling lineage. I think he felt that world class level. Where I think after he's done in mixed martial arts, don't be surprised if he goes into just, no-gi grappling, or, he might be like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready to relax. I've had a long, long career. I've been training since 5 years old. I think it's time for, the wolf or the dragon to walk away from competing and focus on, his kids. His kid, he has one right now, and focus on business. He's got a podcast as well. Mighty will be joining that podcast, so do yourself a favor, go to his YouTube channel, follow and subscribe to his podcast, show him some support, because all us athletes are trying to do other things besides fight, especially myself. My black ass is retired now, and I enjoy talking to so many different fighters. But I think I'm super excited for him to continue his journey in mixed martial arts. And, when I look at 185, it's, Dricus du Plessis, is Adesanya, who else that won it? You got Sean Strickland, you got Robert Whittaker, a friend of the show. You also have Hamzat. So that's a very, very rich, full, talented division where I think Bo Nickal can mix it with all those guys. He has a wrestling pedigree to give any one of those guys trouble, and he's undefeated. 100% finisher rate. That's actually crazy, especially at the high level at UFC. We'll see if he keep that finisher rate going, make it 7-0, and finish in Paul Craig. But I think him at 185 is a good division for him. And, I think the next matchup for the title at 185 is going to be Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. That's the word on the street. And then you have Hamzat taking on Robert Whittaker, which obviously if Hamzat wins that, he can get the next title shot, or it could be Whittaker get the next title shot. And then you have the new generation coming in there, Bo Nickal, who's 28 years old, super young in the division, fresh blood, big name, big following, especially in the wrestling community. I can't wait to see what he does. So make sure you guys tune into his fight when he takes on Paul Craig on that MSG card. Now, if you guys enjoyed this episode of the Mighty Recap, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and also hit the bell to go live. And please let me know in the comment below, what was your favorite part of the episode? Was it, him talking about his wrestling, or was it him talking about, suplexing Gordon Ryan, or just him talking about the development that he's really searching for in his career, that he's developing himself. That way, when he gets to the title shot, he's going to make it look easy. So, boys, we will see you guys at the next episode of the MightyCast. See you next time.